Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kay Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and your host for this week's podcast. And it is our first podcast of the year. And again, I apologize for not being on the airwaves, I guess, but there's been a lot going on in my life personally, as well as out on the Alabama Bass Trail. So before I get started, I do want to thank you for all of your text, phone calls, emails, Facebook messages, Instagram messages, checking on me and my son as he was going through this ordeal with having undergone open heart surgery back on December the 4th. I am so happy to report that he got a great doctor's visit last Friday on his 6-week checkup, doing really well. His weight is coming down, his energy level is going up, and he is feeling great. And he's back at work full time. So it's been, although it's been a very trying ordeal for our family, he is doing fantastic. And I want you to know that we have truly felt your prayers. And that did not end after his surgery. We felt that through his recovery, and we would certainly covet your continued prayers. He has a long road ahead of him, and we are just so excited to be able to go on that journey with him. So I do want to thank you all for that. First and foremost, I always wanted the Alabama Bass Trail to be more like a club tournament, but certainly like a family, and you have shown that throughout this process. Um, and I've gone through some health things in the past year myself, but to see how you guys showed up and showed out for my son, and with your prayers, your comments, your concerns, the words of encouragement that you sent us, I will never forget that and how you cared for our family. And I do want to say I completely am grateful for that and for the love that you've shown. So thank you so much. This is the first podcast of the year, so I would be remiss if I didn't say, guys, congratulations on making it to 2024. And I wish you nothing but health and prosperity and the best of best for you in 2024. It's going to be a heck of a year on the Alabama Bass Trail. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of planning going on as we move into the year and as we begin planning for the next 12 to 24 months on the Alabama Bass Trail. So I do want to wish you the very best for a prosperous, healthy, happy 2024, and we are certainly looking forward to a big year here on the Alabama Bass Trail. As I mentioned over the last couple podcasts, if you can remember that far back, back in November and December, lots of changes coming to the Alabama Bass Trail in 2024. But certainly one thing that you can always count on would be a polar vortex to take over the entire state of Alabama. So changes meaning, we had a change in the entry fees. We had a change in the payout. We have a new MC coming on, Mr. Luke Dunkin, who's going to join me here in just a little bit to talk about our first tournament on Logan Martin. We may even get into some of that north-south kind of talk too, but certainly we want to talk about Logan Martin. Also, we've got new fish care equipment coming in. We've got a new on the water analyst and TV show host, Darian Craig, going to be joining us this year. We've got new partners coming on board. You've got Rapala, VMC, Crush City, Pro Guide Batteries, a number of new partners working with us this year. You've got McGraw Webb Chevrolet from down in Camden, Alabama, that is sponsoring John's truck. You've got Landers McClarty Chevrolet sponsoring my truck. And for all of you who doesn't understand why we need as many vehicles as we do, I'm going to do a whole different video of what all I have to take to tournaments. And it's just a ton of stuff that we have to take and we're responsible for. And so I'll do another video so you can see that. But if you have not seen the video of the two new Alabama Bass Trail trucks, you're missing out. They are fantastic. We are excited. I've driven mine now for a little over a month. I absolutely love it. Not only because it sparkles like my boots, but also because, the increased or better gas mileage that I'm getting in that vehicle is phenomenal. The ride is phenomenal. I love the backup camera. A lot of women get bad raps for our driving, but I will say that backup camera is something else. Very clear, gives you a really broad look behind the truck when you're trying to back it in. I love the different blindside sensors that it has. Just a lot of things that this truck has, and I love. Gonna go ahead and say it by being able to crank it from my app, warm it up in the mornings before I have to go out there and get in those leather seats is phenomenal. Heated leather seats and heated steering wheel, by far my favorite accessories on that truck. Loving the Lear bed slide. I think we've got the E1100. It's updated from the one I had before. Very easy to get in and out to get a lot of that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know that I'll ever have another pickup truck where I don't have a bed slide. I'm not young, and crawling up in the back of a pickup truck to get something that slid to the front of the truck while en route is just not in my game anymore. I can't, just can't do it. I'll just be honest with you. I'm old and I can't do it. So I'm looking forward to letting everyone see the trucks as they're out. I do want to say huge shout out to Mark Cook and to Dan Teal at the two different, Mark's at Landers McClarty Chevrolet there in Huntsville, Dan Teal down in Camden at McGraw Webb Chevrolet. The amount that they went through to get this deal done and support the Alabama Bass Trail. And I'm asking and begging and pleading with you anglers, when you get ready to replace your tow vehicle, give those guys a call. You can find their information on our website. You can go directly to their websites from our website. Give them a call. Let them do you an Alabama Bass Trail deal. They are ready to deal. Mark actually fishes with us, fishes in the North Division, and is looking forward to working with all of you anglers out there on the Alabama Bass Trail. Certainly, Mr. Teal down in Camden. I look forward to getting back down there to see them, let them see the trucks, do a photo shoot with them down there. So thankful for the partners that have come on board with us this year. We're still working on some contracts. Hopefully, we'll have some more announcements as we go forward. But a lot of changes, new stuff on the Alabama Bass Trail. Our new equipment for the fish care tank should be in sometime around the 20th. I think the first time you'll get to see those will be down at Lake Jordan when we debut them. So it was a huge expense for us, but certainly something we knew was needed. Our old fish care equipment is about 10 years old. Technology is newer and greater. Materials are newer and greater, and we feel like this is just going to be the step to, just kind of push the Alabama Bass Trail to a little bit higher expectation and a higher conservation reputation as well. So we're looking forward to showing those. So, we're going to talk a little bit. About as we start getting in with Luke, talk about the ABT 100 on Logan Martin, probably talk about the schedule as it's setting up as we go into the year. But I just wanted to kind of let you guys know we've got a full year planned, and as I'm working this week and missed a good portion of December when contracts are being finalized and things are being done. I've, spent a lot of that time taking care of my son. This week has been finalizing contracts. We are getting the trailer redone, all the new wrap put on it, all the banners, all the barriers that you see out front, clothing items in, scripts written, spreadsheets done for all the people that are going to be involved in the live and in boat check and everything else. And everyone has certain things that they need. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they have those. So just making sure that's done, making sure the first story's done, the feature story. We'll make sure that the write-up story is done, making sure the photographer knows where to be, getting our live meeting set up for this week to talk about live and how we're going to go about that, along with watching the weather. And so there's a ton going on. And so it's been quite the week, but we're glad to be back in the saddle, ready to go for 2024. And I don't think we could do that without talking to the new voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, which is Luke Dunkin, the lowlifer himself, and he will be joining me here in just a few minutes in the next segment. I do want to let you know I talked to Robbie Floyd this morning. It is Monday, the 15th of January. This podcast will go up on the 16th. Robbie just called to wish me the best. He knew my phone was probably blowing up due to the weather that we're experiencing and how anglers sometimes are curious as to whether or not we're going to go forward with the event in such cold temperatures. So he knew that was going on. He just wanted to check in and see how things were going with my son, but then also wish us the best for 2024. You're going to see Robbie on and off the screen some this year. He's going to be filling in for Luke at Lake Martin. He's going to be filling in for me at one event that I'll be absent due to a family conflict that I must attend to. And so he's going to be filling in for an event for me, filling in for one for Luke. So you will see him from time to time. But certainly he is still part of the Alabama Bass Trail family, and I want to thank him for reaching out today. So, but we're going to come back in just a moment. We'll get back with segment number 2. We'll welcome in the new voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, Mr. Luke Dunkin. We'll be back in just a moment on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I promised and I delivered. Mr. Lowlifer himself, Luke Dunkin, the new voice of the Alabama Bass Trail. Like now you're just the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail. I don't know that you're the new voice of the Alabama Bass Trail. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I am still the new voice. I will say, you can't say that. I will say that. I'm the new voice, and as I said on Low Budget Live this week, I might have a frozen voice come this first ABT 100, but I'm looking forward to it.
You know, I was talking in the opening segment about a lot of changes, you know, a new MC, new fish care equipment, a new on the water analyst with Darren Craig, new TV host, you know, some new locations, new partners, new entry fees, new payout. But something that's not new to the Alabama Bass Trail is the polar vortex that seems to take over the entire state for the
Yes.
first 1 or 2 events. It's absolutely insane to me. And I sometimes wonder, what have I done? What have I done, you know, to deserve this? But it seems like that's always every year. And certainly our phones have been ringing off the hook. You've been getting it. I know some people have been reaching
Oh,
out to
yeah.
you. I know Chris Brown used to say that they would reach out to him, and I know John and Daniel have fielded a few calls. I fielded a few hundred text messages and phone calls. But it is what it is. And I mean, we're certainly looking at it. I mean, you and I've had that conversation. We're looking
For
at it.
sure.
And we want the guys to have the best tournament they can have. We want them to have the best opening day on the Alabama Bass Trail as
For
they can
sure.
possibly have. But you know, we really have to look at it from a lot of perspectives. You know, our live equipment, I mean, we got to have live equipment to be able to go live. We got to have things like that. But we got to look at it from a standpoint of what is safe for the anglers. What's uncomfortable and what's safe is 2 totally different things.
Bingo. Yeah, that's dead on. Very different situation sometimes.
You know, and I probably felt just as worried about it when it was going to be 115 at Eufaula a couple
Mhm.
years ago when we were having that, you know, the big, I don't know, just the absolute heat wave of all heat waves at Eufaula
Yes.
in June. And, you know, just talking about cutting an hour from fishing time, the whole world would have erupted. You would have thought that, you know, we were being invaded by Hamas, the way everyone responded to me taking an hour
Yes.
away from fishing. So I was looking, I know Bass Champs has an event this weekend. I was looking there. I think their low is 25 and their high is 45. So they're on the same day that we're on. You know, I almost reached out to Chad Potts and said, okay, how many of your fishermen are like complaining or whatever? So, but 25 and 15, 2 different situations too on your
Yes.
low for that morning. So, but a lot of guys are really excited about this tournament. They signed up back in June. You've got 200 anglers from 7 different states, as far away from Missouri and Indiana. The Florida boys are the ones that it might
Not
really
show
throw.
up. They might just not show up. I might not.
They might say, here, just keep my money. Just I can't
Yeah.
do it. So, but you know, there's got to be a lot of anticipation for this event. I know it is for me. Got to be for
Uh,
you too in your new
I,
position.
Listen, I'm chomping at the bit. I'm so ready, and you know, I'm a little sad. It'll be bittersweet because I fished the 100s the last 2 years, and this is such a good event to kick off the year. There aren't a lot of big events in January, right? We precede all the pro trails, and it's really that kickoff to kind of get your fishing year started on the right foot. And little Trace Wendell and I, the last 2 years, that Jordan event, we had a good one down there. We had a good one last year at Wedowee, and it just gets you started on the right path. So I understand why guys, they want the weather to be perfect. They want everything in their favor to start their fishing season off correctly. But look, it's a January bass tournament. We do live in the South, but we get some cold weather. If you sign up for a tournament trail that fishes January, June, and November, those bookends, we can have some pretty messy weather
Hmm.
in 2 of the 3. So it's going to be cold. It's not going to be comfortable. But look, spotted bass, they're going to bite. Logan Martin will show out, and our field of anglers we have this year in the 100s. On that side of it, I'm glad I'm not in it because there's going to be some butt kickings handed out this year in the 100s.
I think so too. And I know that we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Being part of the live team now, certainly being the MC, you've got a little sneak peek at boat numbers and teams because we've posted a roster, but I'm not sure how many people just really take a look at that roster and look at the
Mm-hmm.
amount of talent that's going to be there. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But you're familiar with MPFL. You've been doing live for them for a couple of years. I mean, you know what it looks like behind the scenes. And I think that's why you and I've had so many conversations recently is because there are so many things that go into making this go.
Yes.
Live production people that are back in the studio and them planning and scheduling their people to be in to do that. Our on the ground people from the hotel rooms to the insurance policies that have to be changed to meeting arrangements have to be changed and getting our team rescheduled. And, so it's never easy to make that call. And so you've been behind the scenes and you've seen that for a long time. So you kind of understand where I am a little bit better, I guess, than some other people. So.
Oh, for sure. And look, and I've had so many anglers have reached out to me. And on this official Alabama Bass Trail podcast, I want to say Miss K does not let me make that decision. I want to look right at this camera. She's never going to go, Luke, make the call on whether we fish or not. I'm just the guy that runs my mouth. But we have talked and you have asked my opinion on things. But I've had so many. And it's the same with MPFL. Hey, are we going to fish? What do you think? What, when weather's coming into an event. Mm-hmm. And I get it because I've been on that side of the fence. And look, it's like I told my little buddy Trey Swindle, which he's weak, and we all know that. He's very feeble little boy, and he's been griping about it. And I said, now if I was sitting in the garage right now putting line on and getting ready for next Saturday, I might be with you going, I don't want to get cold. But for me, that takes out like half the field. When it's tough, if I'm a competitor, I want the toughest scenario I can get because half the guys when they put the boat in, they're done. They're done because they're worried about being cold. And maybe not with this crew, but historically in tough events, you eliminate a lot of the field right out of the jump because of one condition or another that you can't control.
Right.
So I'll be looking forward to it.
When I look back on Alabama Bass Trail history, the first tournament we ever had was on Gunnersville. It preceded the Bassmaster Classic that, we actually had 3 days of single digit weather that week. You had to break ice to get into certain coves and areas of the lake. We still had a 32-pound bag brought in with a 10-13 big fish. You had 85 zeros. Not going to lie about that. Not going to hide that. You had 85 zeros. A bunch of those were probably guys at 12 o'clock said, I'm done, spun out, whatever. I have 4 more tournaments to make that up, but we did have 85 zeros then. I think about then on Pickwick in 2018, 31 degrees, overcast, no sun. It was about 18 when we blasted off. It got up to 31, never got above freezing. We had a phenomenal tournament then. I remember getting a phone call from our polygraph examiner who had just gotten put in the hospital for the flu. I had to drive all the way to St. Joe, Tennessee for Aunt Annie's Beer Garden to have the polygraph. And then, when we launched the Alabama Bass Trail 100 the first year on Lay Lake, it was 18 degrees when we blasted off, and it never got above freezing that day. So we have historically had tournaments where it was below freezing at blast off. Not getting above freezing during the day is tough, and we're certainly looking at that. But historically, Bassmaster Classics have taken off when you couldn't get the boats off the trailer. We have had situations like that. We come prepared to salt and sand the ramps. We're ready for those kinds of things. We've been in touch with the people there at Lincoln. But I do think that it is a mental part of the tournament. And can you keep the wheels together facing that first thing in the morning?
Well, and I think it is. It's equipment failures. Your live well lids might not open. Your reel's going to be ice everywhere, ice in your guides. It is who can overcome that. But I think so many of our fishermen, they fish in the winter. Fishing is definitely a 12-month sport, especially in the state of Alabama, states of Tennessee. I mean, guys compete all year long. So I think people are more prepared than they would have been, say, 4 or 5 years ago for this situation. Your diehard competitors, they're going to be ready. Is it going to be comfortable? No. But it does come down to preparation and then that mental toughness to see who will come out on top for sure down there on Saturday. But I think I'm glad that I'm going to be doing the coverage and I don't have to be out there all day, I'll admit that. For those
I'll
of you
admit
that'll be in
that.
the comments saying, of course you don't care if they fish, Luke, I'll be on the water out there running
Right.
around chasing the guys on ABT Live for a little bit that morning, and then I will gladly retreat to my heated seats in my truck for a few hours
Right.
before the weigh-in.
Right.
But I think that there's one thing that people need to understand, though, and I said this on my podcast this week, is tournament organization. Sometimes as anglers, you do just look at the tournament portion of it. You don't realize that you would have to move a meeting room if you were going to change a meeting. You don't realize that there are several of us that travel from out of town, and there are blocks of hotel rooms, and with the city, your permits and things like insurance, like you mentioned. We don't think about that, myself included. That's not something you think when you go, oh, well, I don't know why blah, blah, blah is having this tournament. Because I'll be honest with you, Miss Kay, I was in that 2013 field down there in Gunnersville, and when I was in the back of Seabold Creek on about Thursday and I couldn't feel any of my extremities and we were chopping ice, I said, this lady's crazy. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why are we having a bass? I'll probably text you, Kay,
Yeah.
I don't like this. And we had the tournament, biggest stringer in ABT history. Things happened, set the pace that nobody's caught up to it yet. Jerry Wright and Brandon Stacks with a broken trolling motor. Crazy to think about that day. My partner and I did not bring in one of those 85 zeros. We caught one fish, and we caught it like third cast. And then it was a very long day after that.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
It was,
pulled up on a causeway, caught it quick, never caught another one.
I don't know if it was just the adrenaline of getting to that point and blasting everybody off, but I remember standing on the bank and I had a coat and I had blue jeans on. I don't know why in the world that's what I thought I need, but I don't remember getting cold. And I think it was the adrenaline of the first event and everything that was going on. At that time, it never dawned on me about salting the ramps. Like, I've learned so much over the last 11 years,
Yes.
and hopefully we run things a little bit better because I'm more aware of those kinds of things. Um, but it was a very, very cold day. I remember after that thinking, how did you get by? And then I ordered one of those big Storm R suits with the neoprene and all the things.
Yeah.
And those were really big for a long time. But when you take that suit and you sit it on a scale and realize that that's like 25
It's like
pounds,
this.
you're
Yeah.
sore. Now, I didn't get cold, but I was so sore from wearing that because in 2015, move us a month later. We went from February the 1st, 2014 to February 28th in 2015. We had 13 inches of snow fall on Wednesday. And we were 18 degrees when we blasted off. I think the high that day was 38. We did have some sunshine, but we had 13 inches of snow on Wednesday night into Thursday. And, got the ramps in good shape and we were able to do the event. But I mean, we've been through some very hard conditions. Smith Lake 2 years ago, I will never, ever forget the amount of griping I took from what I consider the peanut gallery. And two of them win that tournament as they are
Always.
cussing
It's always
me,
how it goes. Yeah, it's always how it
cussing
goes.
me in a text message at 5 o'clock in the morning before we blast off. Of how terrible of a person I am to put them out there in this. And then when they walk up to the line, they look at me and they're like, we got them. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. No way I
Hand
can
me your
root for
check
you.
back.
I know it. I'm like, and so they not only win, they get Phoenix money. I think they take home a little over $18,000 that day. And literally before they blast off, minutes before they blast off, they are telling me how bad of a person I am that I'm having this event and all this. So again, Saturday, that'll probably happen. Somebody in one of these group texts, and I'm in like 3 right now of people who just cannot believe we're having this event. One of them will win, no doubt. No doubt they'll win.
Well,
So
my thing is this, and this is just very cliche, but I've heard people like Gerald Swindle say this many times. But no matter the conditions, and we saw it at your Neely Henry event. What was it that Jonathan Collins won? Miserable
2022.
flooding. Yeah, 2022. Still 20-pound stringer caught. I mean, somebody's going to catch them, but inevitably in any tournament, whether it's a single day, a 4-day, whatever, regardless of the conditions, somebody will get handed a check and a trophy at the end of it, right? Somebody will, no matter what. I don't care. When these fishermen are this good, they're not all 100 going to go out and freeze and their guides freeze up, nobody get a bite. Somebody's going to catch some, and somebody's going to catch a lot.
Mhm.
it's just inevitable. So I like the odds in those kind of events that are tough for a lot of people.
I do too, and I think, that'll probably always be one of my favorite events. I'll be honest with you, after watching live, and we did 4 hours of live coverage, and literally my head is down on the table because we caught one fish catch on camera, and it was the very last person we covered. It was Lee Pitts, I'll never forget it, and it may have been a pound and a halfer. But at that point in my life, I'm thinking, are we going to have 40 teams weigh fish? Am I going
Mhm.
to have 40 teams to pay at the end of the day? Or am I going to have 25 that weigh fish and I'm going to have to split 26 through 40th place money with 100 or 200 teams? Like, you're going to get a check for $1.08 or something like, and that really where I'm going to be at the end of the day. I remember thinking that from about 11 o'clock through the time we finished weigh in. And I was thinking the whole time, are we going to have 40 teams weigh in? Luckily, we did. It ended up being one of the hardest tournaments ever on Alabama Bass Pro. And in that year, we had teams miss the Bass Team Championship because they didn't weigh a pound and a half fish in at Neely
Wow.
Henry. Chad Hall and Ryan missed it. Tracy Robinson and his son missed it by literally, if they would have weighed a pound and a half, 2 pound fish in, they would have been on to the Bassmaster Team Championship. So that to me, and it was first tournament of the year. I mean, that to me really, and it did exactly what we wanted it to do starting on the Coosa, was change that top 40 at the beginning of the year. There were a lot of people in that top 40 that had not been there when we started on the Tennessee River. So that was good. This is a little bit different deal. 3 tournaments spaced out. You've got a winter, a diehard summer event, and then you got a fall event. So it is a little bit different when you've only got those 3 tournaments. Again, Angler of the Year doesn't have a big bonus at the end of the year. You do get those cool belts. You do get the Atlas Jack plate. But it is a little bit different format just having the 3 tournaments. So, all right, you've gotten to see a little bit of the roster, and now you have
Mhm.
privy to their boat numbers. Boat numbers in a 100 boat field really don't mean a lot. It's a difference of about 45 minutes. So I don't think there's as much complaining about boat numbers in the 100 boat field as it is in the 225. But talk to me about 5 of the teams, and I'm going to grab me a pencil so I can write this
Okay.
down and I can revisit it next week when we're talking about
When
the
I'm wrong.
wrap up. Yeah, well, hey, I I will say I typically never pick the winner. I don't have that in me. So you don't want to take me to Vegas. Take me to I can go to a lot of fun places, but Vegas on the betting side is not a place you want to take me.
Me either. And then this sport, it's so hard to pick. Most of the time when you do pick a home lake hero, you end up being disappointed, especially on the pro level. We've seen that a lot. But I think that with this field, man, I really studied this. When you asked me to do this today, I spent a lot of time, and you know me very well, know that I like to talk, and I never make a point. I just ramble around. So picking 5 is very hard for me.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. I've got my 5, and then I've got an honorable mention list. And I
Okay.
wish I could just pick all the 100, because when you look at these names, I'm going crazy. I'm going, how do I pick 5 people, 5 teams? But here's what I got. So
Okay.
I think the top of my list, I think I got to go Rob Lee, Steve Winslet. I think I've got to. They won last year uh, in early in the year, and I think AOI in 2023 in the South, fourth in 2022. Obviously, very talented anglers. I think you got to look at them. Wintertime event. Do they have a couple spots? I wasn't at that event, but do they have some things that they know on Logan Martin? I got to think yes. Obviously, they do, and they're very talented anglers. Second for me, Josh Chappell, Paul Davis. I think that you just, for me, those South Angler of the Year races, success in years past, their name, I'm going to say it a lot this year. I know that no matter whether it's the 100s or in the South, you're going to say that a lot. So for me, those are the top 2 teams coming in. Kyle Dorsett, Justin Atkins. It's another one that, I've kind of stewed over a little bit. Kyle won on Logan. He won an ABT on Logan in 2018. He's a spotted bass expert, and that is from Justin Atkins calls Kyle a spotted bass expert. They had a top 3 down at Jordan 2 years ago in the ABT 100 in January to kick off the year. and they didn't fish last year, but got back together this year. And I'll promise you, it's a little bit like that schedule 2 years ago. You got a spotted bass kickoff potentially and a Tennessee River finisher, and they bookended those with great events. So no surprise, those guys are back together, and obviously extremely great fishermen, and would not shock me at all to see them do well. You got to throw Tim Hurst, Mark McKeag, of course. Like, can you even have a tournament in Alabama or the Southeast and not have them? I'm never picking against those guys on the Coosa River, especially. I'm not picking against them anywhere, but the Coosa, especially Logan, they've got some wins that time of year for sure. And events I've competed against them in over the years, they're going to be in the mix. And then I think this one for me, I kind of flip flop this one with somebody in my honorable mention list, but Zeke Gossett, Ethan King. Zeke North, wins the AOI in the North last year in the team series. I follow Zeke on social media, and I feel like Zeke's Facebook and Instagram is, I won this on Logan this weekend. I won this on Logan. I won this on Logan. So I don't think there's anybody in our field that's going to have more experience or more current tournament success than Zeke. So, and a lot of that's in the winter. I keep up a lot with what he does, and Zeke's a fantastic angler. So those are my 5 teams that I've got my eye on for sure. Okay. Now, I do have honorable mentions. As I said, I've got honorable mentions, but those are my 5.
I'm ready.
Okay, so honorable mentions. I am an old school, even though I am a lot younger than these gentlemen. They've been around the game for a long time, and I think Alan Glasgow, George Crane, if there's a tournament on the Coosa River, I am never, ever, ever, ever picking against those gentlemen. I drew George Crane. I fished a BFL as a co-angler at 16 and spent a day in the boat with George Crane, and probably learned as much that day on Wheeler Lake, just about swimming a jig. And all we did was talk about the Coosa River, but met that guy years ago, and he's just one of those Coosa River legends. Terry Tucker, Jeff Cannon. Again, if I got to pick 5, and I know that, but how are you going to leave Terry Tucker out after the fall he had? After the year he had last year? I mean, he likes to throw a jig, loves to throw a crankbait. Wintertime sets up for that. Like, I'm picking Terry Tucker for sure. Now, he wasn't in my 5. Sorry, Terry, but you can't not pick it. Wes and Doug Logan, how could you not pick them? They got the name Logan in their name. I mean, my goodness. And they're Coosa River guys. Wesley Gore, Ryan Stifler, again, how do you pick against them? I don't know. That's a tough one for me. And then one for me that really hit me today looking at the list. And originally I had him in my top 5 because I think he will be very dangerous. Kelly J. Lanier Burton. They win late last year in the cold. Kelly is a spotted bass guy. He's a jerkbait expert. He's a cold weather expert. And so you could really, any of the first 5 teams I said, you could flip flop them with any of those and maybe get your winner out of that group. But we've got some, and listen, the people I'm leaving out, I apologize to you, because anytime you start naming names, I know how it goes. I did this with MPFL anglers on the podcast last week, and I'm getting texts. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for leaving me out. I'm like, man, it's so impossible to remember everybody, but that's my 10 teams, Kay, right there.
Okay. I like the list. I think it's interesting. Most of the people that you've picked there are strictly South guys. So you don't really think an ABT North team or a
See,
North
don't do
team.
that to me. Don't do that to me.
I'm just asking.
See,
Nobody
what you did to me right there is Jimmy Mason's going to walk up to me and kick me in the shin, or Brent Crow and Slick or somebody. Oh, you don't think the North can represent?
Well, traditionally that
think
hasn't happened. I mean, traditionally South guys have dominated in the South. There's one team I don't see on there that I'm going to ask you about, and that's Adam Bain, Chris Colley. Those guys are probably the best fall Coosa River guys that I've ever seen fish. I like Adam and Chris. I agree with most of the other ones that you have here. I would say I feel really, really good about the ones that you have here.
Yeah, you got to throw Adam and Chris in there too, for sure.
I'm trying to think, and I don't know why I don't have the list in front of me. I was trying to think if there was a good Smith Lake team that I thought could come from Smith Lake, because Wesley Sams and Jordan Wiggins not in this year. Jesse and Jordan aren't fishing this year. So I
Got
was trying
Craig
to
and Jackie.
Craig and
Craig and Jackie.
Jackie and his son is fishing, Ethan. Jackie and Ethan are fishing
Okay,
together,
so
so
it's
that
not
could
Craig.
be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That could
Craig's
be
fishing with Wes on the North Division. So I like this list. I think if you look at it, most of those guys are going to have a camera or a tracker on them based on our list that we have. Um, is there a team on that list that you think could just come out of nowhere and win that we hadn't
on
talked about?
my list or out
Or
of the 100.
out of the 100. I'm going to try to pull up that
Hmm.
list. So you'll have to just bear with me because I've got 1,000
No,
screens
you're
open right
good.
now. So I'm going to see what I can pull
There's
up the
so
numbers
many.
here. There's a lot of good ones,
There's
dude.
so
Like
many.
a lot of good ones. And some of them, unfortunately, that we have
Ah,
not even discussed. I mean, because they're new and we don't know them
that's
as
right.
well. So that's
Look,
the other thing.
I see you got Andrew Loberg and Jed Lamb on there this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know Loberg fairly well. West Coast guy, now lives at Gunnersville, fishes the FLW Tour. Kid can just is an absolute freak of nature with a rod and reel. Wouldn't shock me to see him absolutely start the year strong. His name on there. I'll tell you somebody, and I just said his name, that he's going to kick me in the shin. So now I'm trying to not get kicked. But Jimmy Mason started the year with a top five. Jimmy is that guy in the state of Alabama that he has seen it all conditions wise. He's been to all these lakes a million times, and he does very well in the 100s.
Yep.
So it would not shock me at all to see him do well. Alex Davis, Derek Hicks, new team this year, new tag team there. Like, wouldn't shock me at all to see Alex. If Alex's biggest thing is if he just doesn't cry about the cold, you know. I gotta
Well,
give him crap.
he already has, so we'll just go on
I
and
know. I've
talk
already
that
heard
up.
it. I already heard it. Oh, say, hey, new team. I left my old partner, and if he wins one without me, I'm gonna be devastated.
You
'Cause
will
I'm gonna
never
catch
hear the end of it.
for sure. But we got little Sammy George and the LOB himself, Trey Swindle, fishing together, and I don't know. They're not handling this cold well mentally. Trust me, because I can show you the text.
Yep.
But those two, dangerous combo because Sammy really loves that forward facing stuff. He's a good finesse fisherman. He's really good at excelling in tough conditions, and Trey can do everything else, the shallow water stuff. They're going to be a dangerous team this year in the 100s.
I think so too. There's a couple more that I see on the list for either a tracker or a camera, because I know this will come out before we tell those guys they're getting a tracker or a camera. Two teams that I see actually three that I see right off. Damian Willis and Mark Stewart. You normally see him fish with Tyler Kiker in the north. I know Damian loves to fish Logan Martin in the winter. I know he's been giving me a little grief about the weather conditions and stuff, but I think he and Mark, they fished together the first couple years now in Bass Trail. I think they'll be a good team to watch. I think this sets up really well for them. They both fish there a lot, so I like that. One of the other teams is Ken Walters and Dallas Weldon.
Yes, that one caught my eye too when I'm doing this list.
You know, out of 4 ABT events, ABT 100 events, they won over $61,000,
Insane.
and they've been real close in that Angler of the Year race for a couple years. So I like that team. I know Dallas is not really looking forward to that cold weather. I've gotten some few messages from him as well. But they're just a really strong team, and we see them fish in the South with different partners, but together, man, they've really done a heck of a job. And then one other team, Scott Canterbury and Terry Stevens.
Yeah.
I think that one's going to be interesting to see. I want to see how. I know Scott's having a hard time coming out of the woods. He's been deer hunting a whole lot, but I like the list you put up here. Certainly, Paul Davis, Josh Apple probably have a little bit more of a something to defend. Maybe got a little I don't know, target on their back. Maybe this is their home body of water. I don't know that they fish it as much. I know they don't like to fish it during the summertime just simply because of boat traffic. Kyle Dorsett's got a lot of winds on that lake. Tim and Mark, Zeke. I mean, every one of those teams you mentioned are just flat hammers down there on the Coosa River. So I think it's going to be real interesting. I'm going to add Adam and Chris to that list. Damien
Yes.
and Mark, um, Dallas and Ken I like, and then certainly Scott Canterbury, Terry Stevens. I think they're going to be a team to watch. All of those that we mentioned, most every one of those are either going to have a camera or a tracker on their boat. You know, I think of quite a dark horse. I'm going to go and throw it out there is Rusty White and Brian Elder. They won Wadowee last year. Nobody knew
Mm.
who they were. They came in second, I think, in the AOY points this year. Put on a heck of a show all year long on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. So if I've got to pick a dark horse, that's going to be my dark horse, just because we don't know a lot about them. They haven't ever fished Alabama Bass Trail before. I think Rusty made it into the regular ABT North coming off the waiting list this year. But we just don't know a lot about those guys. So I'm going to make them my dark horse, and I'm going to write that down so I have that on my list here, so I can refer back to it whenever this is over and done with, and um,
We can see how we don't know what we're
we can
talking
see how
about.
we don't know. 100%. I can tell you right now
Yeah.
that is going to be the talk of the town. I am the worst person to do picks, and certainly the next thing I'm going to ask you, I'm even worse at, and that's going to be, what do you think a weight's going to be, dude, with this weather conditions and everything?
Man, that's a tough one. I was thinking about that earlier. 17, 18-ish,
Okay.
with Logan Martin. Logan's not that late for me that now I've certainly seen those mid 20s bags that you can see other places, but I feel like you got to have a couple big largemouth to get there sometimes. So in that cold, I say 17, 18 for me. Would it shock me if somebody comes in with 22? Absolutely not, because it never does with this group. But 17, 18, I think last February in the regular ABT took 18-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty typical for that lake, I feel like. I know
I'd love to.
this. If I launch the boat to the frozen tundra and you tell me there's 17 pounds of spots in my live well, I'm just going to tie up and eat Jack's biscuits all day long and drink Mountain Dews. I'm not going fishing. I'd take
Yeah.
17. I think most of our field would go, I'm good with that. Just give
Yeah.
me 17 right now.
I think it's going to go a little down in the 20th place check line. I think it's probably going to take, around that 11, 12 pounds to get a check,
Mm-hmm.
which is disappointing for me, because I think had we stayed in that 45, 50-degree daytime
For
temperature that
sure.
week, I think we could have seen, a 14 at a check line. So I'm going to put 11 to 12 pounds on the check line.
Yeah, we're all focused on, the weather, the actual tournament day, and that's something you got to look at when you make these predictions. Is this is the front, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it's at my house in Tennessee, just 3 hours north. It's going to be negative wind chill here all day tomorrow. The actual low is 0. We don't get that here, and that's extending down your way and to the Logan Martin area. So you're going to have 4 or 5 days of just brutal cold. Water temperatures are going to plummet. So I think that will play with things a little bit. But man, I just think spots are resilient. There'll be several teams in that check line that get it done. But I think that 12-pound plus mark, there's a lot of 2.5-pound plus spots in that lake.
The other thing that I find about the weather leading up to that, you said it right. You're going to have that cold front's going to come in. Thursday, Friday, going to be pretty nice. Saturday, we take another dip in temps, and then we warm up again Sunday. So I wonder what that Saturday dip will do. But this should drive fish off the bank. I mean, honestly, if you're a bank fisherman, and we're going to see people doing that. There's no doubt we're going to see people doing that. But if you're a bank fisherman, I think this has got to make you change your first line of defense. Got to be.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Trey Swindle. I talked to him the other day and I said, man, your buzzbait blade will be frozen this year. You won't be able to throw it like you did at Wedowee. It's just going to completely freeze and not turn. So, yeah, I think, suspended fish, obviously, with this forward facing sonar world we live in now, it'll be a big player. You got spots moving around on bait, suspended fish with that cold, and just they get funky after these fronts. So I think people that excel at that for sure, and then just deep, fish on deep bait, I think could really, really win this deal.
I think so too. I think just listening to some people talk and just reading some articles. Logan Martin is a lake that we've had 215 limits caught at. You go to Wadowie, you have multiple limits. You have people talking about catching 75 fish a day. That's really how you want to start the season off. You want to go to those lakes where you see numbers and numbers of of fish caught, lots of limits caught. You want everybody to at least have the potential of catching those fish, and that's why Logan Martin was an
Yes.
automatic for us when we talked about this. I didn't intend on talking to you about this, but we'll go ahead and dive into it. We're only just a few more days. I mean, we're 4 days away from this ABT 100 on Logan Martin, but really we're less than a month, 25 days from kicking off down at Lake Jordan. You've been there for an ABT 100. Um, you know, the last time we were there in February was the month before the whole world shut down. We were there in February of 2020. It took 20.33 to win. That was Noah and Cole Godwin. That was the year they bookended. They won the first one, won the last one. 20.33 to win. It was a 530 big fish. Took almost 12 pounds to get a check in 40th place. Those guys are going to be back this year. I got to think that Cole and Noah Godwin is on a lot of people's radar when it comes to um, Lake Jordan in February, for sure.
No doubt about it. And I think that lake is it's one of the best fisheries in Alabama as far as numbers and size. Like you can get a bite. You were talking about Wedowie, man, Jordan, I'll put it up there. Like you can get a lot of bites and it's a great place to me, just like Logan is, to kick off the year. Even if you have some winter conditions, some tougher, colder water temperatures, you're going to be able to get bit and everybody in the field is going to be able to have a good time. And it'll take 20 plus. I mean, it'll take 20 to 22 pounds potentially. And a lot of times all spots, which I'm obsessed with spots. I absolutely love it. I hope I get to see a bunch of them come across the stage down there here in 25 days.
Well, I know we've had a tournament there where 24 and a half won. I want to say that was like in maybe 15 or 16, where 24 and a half won. I think it took close to 16 pounds to get a check. So we've seen big stringers come there. What sticks out in my mind about Jordan is 2 years ago when we had the championship there, we didn't see a 4 or 5 pounder. We saw a couple 3 pounders. To me, those fish are going to start showing up. Maybe we're going to start seeing that 4 pounder, 4.5, 5 pounder come in to play again. I have my own personal feelings about why we didn't see those fish, but we did not see those 4 or 5 pounders in the championship, and I think maybe now we're going to see those really start to show up in February when we get down there. So I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot more people in that field that I think have a really good chance to do well there. But I certainly think Noah and Cole Godwin, we talked about this, and I know there was a live the other night that I was tuned into, and we talked about time on the water. And there is no doubt, if you stay on social media, if you look at social media, Noah and Cole Godwin, those guys put in their time. Of course, Wesley Gore's not able to fish that event, making it to the Elite Series, but certainly, last year Wesley Gore was one of those guys that just stay on the water. And there's nothing, I said this before, I don't care what boat you're in, I don't care what reel you're throwing. Time on the water, there's nothing that beats just time on the water. I remember spending 4 hours on the boat with Aaron Martins at Lake Eufaula one year at a writers event, and for 3 of the 4 hours we graphed, and I thought I was just going to get sick. He was going from this side to this side to this side, from this ledge to this ledge, and there were a lot of times, and he would tell me that there were a lot of times during practice he never casted. He just looked and marked and moved on. And so time on the water to me, and I certainly see Noah and Cole, doing that. So, and I know this one's got to be special to you. 32 days away from the much anticipated Pickwick Lake ABT North opener.
Right
Dude, the
there.
last time I know it, the last time we were there in February, I think it was like February 27th, 2021, Teron Prince and Jeff Stuberfield took the win with 27.79. We had 19 bags go over 20 pounds. It took 17.15 to get a check in 40th place and a 7.66 big fish. Dude, I know before that tournament we had a shad kill. So it's going to be interesting to see what this weather does as far as shad kill or whatever. But we had a shad kill the week before that event. So I think that actually helped the tournament a little bit. We've seen Pickwick's down, Pickwick's down, Pickwick's down. I think this opportunity, we're 1 for 2 in having February tournaments at Pickwick. We had one scheduled in 2018. Flooding ruined it. We had to postpone it to September. We had one in 2021. It was phenomenal. One of the best Tennessee River tournaments we've ever had, with the exception of the one we had in March. I think it was 2019. We were 38 bags over 20 pounds. Yeah, that to me was the best
Silly.
tournament.
Yeah.
stupid good, to where I walked up at the Bassmaster Classic the next week and Kevin Van Dam came up to me at the bar and said, "Are you freaking kidding me? 38 bags over 20 pounds." And I was like, dude,
Yeah.
tell me. Like, I got tired of taking pictures for social media. It was so good. But talk about Pickwick and what your expectations are there.
So I remember that week you're talking about all the bags. It took 17 to get a check, all the bags over 20, and it was so crazy. I actually fished that week, early in that week, and it wasn't happening. And those fish, something flipped a switch between Friday and Saturday. And I remember talking to guys like David Allen, great guide down there, and it was like they just all went to the bars and they all got set up perfect. Because I think a lot of anglers that I knew that were in it, they had a terrible practice. And then, got a bite, they nickel and dimed it. And then on tournament day, it's like, oh my gosh, 4-pounders everywhere. It was insane. And you've been doing this long enough to know that Tennessee River's like that, whether that's Guntersville, Wheeler, Pickwick, they just show up sometimes.
Mhm.
And I don't know where they're at in between. If we could ever find that out, we'd all be a lot richer, probably. But, talking about Pickwick being down, it has been kind of it was an interesting year last year. I think
Mhm.
top end weight wise, but then I look at the Toyota owners tournament, what we saw some big weights. Jake, I forget the young man's last name from Kentucky Lake. He's doing something. He's obviously figured out something kind of crazy on the lower end of the lake is what we keep hearing, and really big stringers. He won a couple BFLs. He had 3 fish for like 19 at one point in September, which is unheard of, right? Like Jake Lawrence. It's unheard of. So the fish are still there. I think they are very educated. Pickwick gets a lot of pressure. But I think that time of year, what you have the recipe for is not only to see a 27-pound stringer like you did in that event, but you have the opportunity for, if things line up correctly with the current and the weather, you could see that be 20 bags over 20 of all smallmouth.
Amen.
Right? Like with that's the cool thing about Pickwick and giant largemouth. The grass is back. You could see huge mixed bags, but you could certainly see if things line up, and they have to, everything has to be right, but you could see multiple 20-pound bags of smallmouth. It's the only lake that we go to in the Alabama Bass Trail where that can play. And for me, it's such a great kickoff for the year because you've got your guys that'll be at the dam and the tail race doing the current thing. You've got your guys that'll be deep on the very bottom end of the lake. You've got the guys that'll be in that Coger Island grass, shallow water bar, throwing a lipless on stump rows, things like that. So many different ways you can win and compete to be in the top 10. So you can really fish your strengths in that one. And you just never know. It's a wild card, any river fishery. And Pickwick to me sets up more like an actual river than Guntersville does.
Mm-hmm.
Flooding certainly matters. Rain can blow you out, as you know. It makes you nervous having it on the schedule that early. I know anytime, it can be flooded out to the highway. So current, water level, all of those things matter, and it can change within an hour sometimes. So, but it's such a magic fishery. But my biggest stringer that I've ever caught there, fun fishing or in a tournament, was in February, 2 or 3, I guess it was 2022. I had a week stretch there about mid-February. That's the best fishing I've ever had on Pickwick. Multiple bags over 25 pounds up to like 30. And I'm not competing, just down there fishing. And that's mainly largemouth. And then by the end of the week, the current changed, and I had a friend in from out of town, and we got on big smallmouth by the end of the week. So such a cool fishery. It can make you scratch your head at times, but perfect place to kick off the year. Perfect place. Obviously, I'm excited. As you can tell, it's home for me. It's home for me. That's to do your event there, and I got to do one last year. It was very special. But to get to start my North career as the MC at Pickwick is very special for sure.
And that was certainly determined way before you and I decided that we were
sure.
going to kind of go on this journey together.
For sure.
But thinking about all that goes into scheduling and everything like that, if you had somewhere to pick in Alabama to start the 2025 ABT 100 schedule, that tournament's already been set. But I'm going to ask you, where would you want to start in January of 2025?
In January for the 100s?
Mm-hmm.
Guntersville.
Again, Again, everybody, that's
Gunnersville.
already been set. So I'm just
Gun-
asking Luke as a
and again, I don't know, so don't text me. She's not going to tell me. Gunnersville, based off of what we just saw at the New Year's Day tournament over
yeah,
there,
yeah, it's a heck of a fishery.
and again, you can talk about Pickwick and the fishing pressure. It's easy to lay that excuse. Nobody, no bass sees more lures than the bass at Gunnersville, and it absolutely it can be cyclical, but
Yep.
man, we are on an upswing where I can't wait to see what this year brings, because if it holds up like it started off New Year's Day, we're in for a fun one over there. So I would say 2025, let's get some swim baiting, let's get some 30-pound bags.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. Is there a lake that we haven't gone to that you would like to see us go to on the ABT 100? Somewhere where we haven't been on the ABT, we haven't been on the ABT 100. Is there another lake that sticks out to you?
Everybody's going to think I'm crazy for this one. Everybody, other than maybe Kelly J. Lake Martin for the 100s. I think I love. Now, don't go in June, obviously, but I think for the sheer number of bites you can get in that place, the mental. Okay, well, we're catching pound and a halfers. We got to have 2.5s to do good. I love all that strategy that comes in to play in a lake like Lake Martin. It's a beautiful lake. It's a huge, wide open fishery. You can cover some ground. Yeah, I think Lake Martin. Now everybody, my comments will fill up. Why Lake Martin? It's a fantastic fishery. Fantastic fishery.
Fantastic fishery, fantastic facilities. The state park rolls out the red carpet. The city of Alexander City is a great host. I think all of it goes together, and that's what the anglers are just thinking about the fishery. But when you pull into town and you're not welcomed, or you don't have the right hotel rooms, you can't plug your boat in, you can't do all the things, then your experience is just ruined. So all of that plays. Lake Martin's a great host. Lake Guntersville's a great host. Even the people up in, Scottsboro, because a lot of times we talk about Guntersville and we think of just Guntersville, but certainly Scottsboro
Right.
has been a great host to the Alabama Bass Trail before. So, well, that's interesting. The fall tournament to me is always the hard one to place. Fall
Yeah.
fishing traditionally in Alabama is just not superb, especially when it's your Angler of the Year tournament. You're trying to position that Angler of the Year. So, I love a Wilson Lake deal. Just where though?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Facilities
Because
are the
facilities
problem.
are
Yeah.
the problem. You have great ramps. You just don't have a great place to stage up, and that's kind of what really hurts us there. But we're looking at it. We're trying to figure out. Now the first tournament of the year is scheduled. We have two site visits we're going to go on to try to get the second and third tournament set for the 2025 season. I'm looking forward to that. But again, you announced that like in March, so we're already midway through
Yeah.
January, so some of that's got to be nailed down. So looking
I
forward to
didn't think
that.
about. Shame on me for not saying Wilson, because that's that's home
I
more
was
than Pickwick
surprised.
even. And well, I guess I just don't think of tournaments of this caliber
Yeah.
sometimes, just because of that. I mean, we do have fantastic boat ramps. That's one thing. Wilson, they're every 5 feet around that lake, I feel
Yep.
like. But as far as a big tournament, for 100 boats and to have the stage set up, there's not. I guess there might be one. You might be able to go. You might pull it off at Safety Harbor below the dam there. You really might. And then all of the Brewers and Jimmy Mason and Brent Crow, they don't have to go far to where they're going to fish all day. They just
Exactly. Be
hanging
easy
right. They
for
burn
live.
no gas.
Yeah.
But yeah, live will just stand on the bank. We'll save
Yeah.
so much money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I mean, it's certainly something that we're looking at 2025. We're looking at trying to get that schedule nailed down. And then the next thing is to schedule the 25 championship. So you start filling in the schedule around it. And that's all stuff that's happening because, again, we announced the 2025 ABT 100 schedule in March and then turn around and announce the ABT schedule in May. So we try to get the classic date. And a lot of people are like, oh, why do you hear about when the classic is? Well, we always attend the classic. All of our camera people with Anglers Channel attend the classic. So, we try to be and a lot of our guys like to go to the classic. Do I think it's going to be in Alabama in 25? No, because Red Crest is here. So I don't think that they'll ever put it in the same state that the Red Crest is going on. So I don't think it'll be in Alabama in 25. I could be wrong. I don't have any knowledge of that. I really just want the date. I don't really care where it goes. I just want to know the date so I don't schedule on top of it. But
I've heard. It says let's just rumor. Let's
yeah,
just drop
rumor
this.
mill. Yeah.
I'm here in Tennessee back again. That's what
That wouldn't
I've
surprise me.
heard.
That wouldn't
Wouldn't
surprise me.
surprise me at all.
I'm not a
It's got to
huge
get.
Tennessee fan, but I will
All
say,
right. Well, thank you so much, Kay. It's been great today.
um, but I will say, I'm not sure anybody does the classic like Tennessee does the classic. I really think that that is something they take such good pride in. It was a long time coming. I mean, they didn't have a classic,
Mhm.
there for a long, long time, and so they got it. And Dennis Tumlin does a really good job up there in
Yes.
Tennessee, and they're doing great things up there. And props to Governor Lee for giving them the backing to go out and work on the fishing industry. From a tourism perspective, I was involved with a lot of the conversations on that, and but I wouldn't be mad about it going back to Tennessee. I think
Um,
Knoxville does a phenomenal job there. Very, it's good. Oh, and Alabama Bass Trail's uh pretty popular there too. So we always get
no doubt
good
about it.
we get good traction at our booth up in Tennessee. So, Oklahoma, a lot of people probably wonder why we go to Oklahoma. And it's really not for the tournament series, it's more for our tourism things as to what we do tourism wise and why we go to the East Tennessee show and the Columbus, Ohio show. Very few people probably know that Ohio and Kentucky are the largest states for out of state fishing license for Alabama. So from a tourism perspective, it's important, not necessarily from the tournament series part. And I'm as equally responsible for that as I am the tournament series. So that's kind of why we worry about the classic and when it's going to be. But we did lose a lot of our camera people, a lot of our production people when we
For
go to the
sure.
classic. So if we're on the same date. So anyway, well, thank you for taking time. I don't know how you're going to get back to your house out of the bar and grill there. Uh,
It's not looking good. Swindle made a video this morning that he was disappointed by the weather that he ended up getting. And normally in Southern Tennessee they miss it. It's my whole life I've been hyped up about snow, and then it doesn't happen. It's like the fourth time I remember a snow like this in my 40 years. But we got it today, and
yeah.
it's still coming down out there.
Well, I remember March of 1993. I was pregnant with my son, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to get 8 inches of snow." And I'm, "Oh, we're not. No, we're not." Woke up, 8 inches of snow, and I was just like, I had not gone and got the milk and the bread. I was not a true Southerner. I had not gone and got the milk and bread, and everybody's worried about. Of course, I was about this big too with my first child. So, well, we have not gotten the snow yet. We've got some sleet out on the ground, but I am snuggled in. Wrigley and I are snuggled in the Alabama Bass Trail home office today, and hopefully we'll get to head toward Logan Martin here on Wednesday. But thank you for tuning in with me. I look forward to the 2024 season
It's
with
gonna be
you.
a great time.
Tell Miss Marissa I said hello, and
I
I'll
will
see
do
you
that.
Thursday. I'll see you Thursday. I'm sure I'll talk to you before.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Luke. All right, guys, that is that segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. If you'll hold on, we'll be right back with more on the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business, we invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Well, there you have it, Mr. Luke Dunkin, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, giving you his opinion on Logan Martin, giving you his top 5 as well as 5 on his honorable mention list. I think it's going to be a dicey situation down there on Logan Martin. Again, for those of you listening, we do not make decisions this far in advance on whether we'll push a tournament or not. Normally, that decision's made by Wednesday morning. We are watching the weather. We are trying our best to stay abreast, but you can look at 5 different weather apps and you'll get 5 different predictions. So we are looking at it. John, Daniel, myself, as well as our camera crews are watching it. We will make a decision as soon as possible. Certainly by 5 p.m. on Friday, you will know something. So you probably received your pre-tournament email. That is standard. Monday morning, 10 o'clock before tournament, it's standard for you to get that email. We will make additional decisions as it is deemed necessary. And if you don't receive anything else from us, then proceed as if we are fishing on Saturday. So I'll give you a few more things. Of course, starting the year off with what to do, see, and eat in the state of Alabama. And since we are traveling down to Logan Martin, I think it's only fitting that we talk about a new destination. And I say destination because it's probably one of the coolest things that you'll see when you go out on our trail. It's a little place called Anglers Point. And what really got me about this setup is you can RV camp, you have lakeside cottages, you have bungalows, you have glamping, a more upscale camping type of situation. You have tiny houses, and you even have a covered wagon. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a covered wagon for this weekend, but maybe in the spring when it warms up a little bit, but you've got covered and uncovered, campgrounds. You've got full hookups, water, gravel pads. I mean, all the things. You've got a platinum level lakefront RV site. I am actually going to be staying in one of the lakeside cabins when we go there. The great people in Lincoln wanted me to stay there so I could give them my full recommendation, and I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, again, the covered wagon, it says your modern luxury with a covered wagon. Step inside your humble abode, full size Conestoga wagon, perfect for couples getaway to the lake or families looking for that unique experience. So I'm excited about that. Located right there by Lincoln Landing. If you haven't booked your reservation yet, you can look at anglerspoint.com and find out what's available and the pricing there. So to give you a little headline on that. Also talk about food. I'm going to highlight two places. One I've never been to, and that's Distillery Bar and Grill, located at 84 Blue Eye Road in Lincoln, Alabama. It opens daily on Tuesday through Saturdays at 11 a.m. Stay open to 11 p.m. They offer steaks, burgers, chicken, sandwiches, and awesome appetizers. So I'm looking forward to getting there and doing that one night. I'm not sure which night it'll be, but looking forward to that. And then Rick's Crossroad Grill, located at 48278 Highway 78 there in Lincoln. Again, open Tuesdays through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Again, very bar and grill type food. So drinks are cold, the food's hot. I'm there. So looking forward to getting to visit both of those places while we're there. So now that you're hungry, it's probably time to wrap this up and let you get something to eat, whether it be lunch or dinner. I'm going to be headed to lunch here in just a little bit, but did want to kind of wrap up the show. And as always, I do want to talk about, we are just 30 days away from UAB Blazer baseball. We'll be taking on the Kennesaw State Owls down at UAB on the 15th of February. So that's our opening game. I will be at Pickwick, of course, but certainly we'll be down there on Sunday getting to watch some UAB Blazer baseball. And number 1 in my heart, and I think number 11 on the field. I can't remember what his number is this year. It's kind of different for me, this year being a fifth year baseball parent, but looking forward to that. Again, I do want to remind you all, if you're watching the Alabama Bass Trail 100 this weekend, you can find it on alabamabasstrail100.org. Click on live and click on live on the water or live weigh-in, whichever one you want to tune into. You can also watch it on the Alabama Bass Trail 100 Facebook page, as well as Alabama Bass Trail TV on YouTube. So lots of ways that you can watch the action. We will be going from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll take a short break and come back at 3 o'clock for your live weigh-in. 100 teams, $100,000 on the line, 100% payback. So glad to be a part of the Alabama Bass Trail. Hopefully you can tune in with us this weekend and see all the action from Logan Martin Lake there in the city of Lincoln. A huge shout out to the city of Lincoln, to Les Robinson and his staff there at Lincoln Landing. Looking forward to kicking off our season, the 11th season here on the Alabama Bass Trail, the 4th season of the Alabama Bass Trail 100. Looking forward to that. All right, let's see, 21, 22, 23. Yep, this is our 4th season on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. That does it for this week's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. If you have any topics you would like for us to cover, please slide into the DMs there on the Alabama Bass Trail Facebook page, or you can email me at k@alabamabasstrail.org. We'll be glad to try to tackle any of the topics that you would like to have, or if you have a guest you would like for us to interview, we would like to hear from you on that. But if not, until then, we do hope to see you in the great state of Alabama, either on the water or off the water. But until then, God bless, good fishing, and go Blazers.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.